In this video, I want to share with you the 4 archetypes of business. These are 4 patterns of thinking or behaviors or energies that show up in every entrepreneur I've ever mentored and worked with. And once you understand them and what they are, you're going to be able to grow and scale your business so much faster and more easily than the entrepreneur who doesn't understand these and doesn't understand how to balance them or integrate them in their business. Now, these 4 archetypes, you can think of them as energies, patterns of behavior or thinking that we all have. And they show up differently in different people. But generally what you'll find as we go through these 4 archetypes is you probably have 1 or 2 that are a little bit more heavily weighted in your life or your business than others. This comes from a book, by the way, called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, which is a men's workbook. And this is relevant for you regardless of whether you identify as a man or a woman. It's going to be super helpful for you as an entrepreneur. So let's dive in. The first archetype is the warrior. And this is generally where I find most newer entrepreneurs spend the majority of their time focused. The warrior is the doer. The warrior is the action taker. The warrior is the one that's going to go out and make it happen. It's the entrepreneur who's going out there hustling, creating the content, cold DMing hundreds of people a day. They're making it happen. They're doing the work. They're taking massive action. And this archetype is super helpful and useful at a certain stage in business, particularly if you are under 6 figures. You know, the work that it takes to get from 0 to 6 figures in a business, there's a lot of hustle that I think is required at that stage of the journey. You got to try a bunch of different things. You're just going to put a bunch of stuff out there. A lot of it's going to fail and flop. And so there's a level of just brute force persistence that I think is required more so in that stage of a business than pretty much anywhere else. So the warrior is the person who's going out there, who's making it happen. Super useful. And we all want to have a certain element of the warrior in our business as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as people who are CEOs. It's important to have this aspect of our personality in certain stages in a business and at certain times in a business. Here's the thing though, a lot of people get stuck in the warrior. And so what I often see for entrepreneurs, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are scaling past 6 figures, and I see a lot of burnout. I see a lot of people who are doing, and they're kind of stuck in this grind energy. And they're trying to apply that same mindset of the warrior that got them to 6 figures to get to multiple 6 figures or 7 figures. And what happens is you hit a bottleneck in your business and you burn out. Because at a certain point, that willful doing, grinding energy just is not sustainable in a business. And so if you're not able to move past the warrior in your business and integrate some of these other archetypes in the way that you show up in your business, you hit a bottleneck. And generally, I see a lot of entrepreneurs burn out. So none of these archetypes are wrong. That's something I think is really important. The key here is once you know what these 4 archetypes are, you want to really reflect on how can I integrate them and balance them. Some people, on the other hand, are underdeveloped in their warrior. They might be visionaries who are really good at dreaming and coming up with a compelling vision for the future and what they want to create. But where they struggle is more of the ground floor aspect of just going at it and making it happen. And so this might be an area that you might want to develop more if you're that kind of an entrepreneur. This is, going out there and being disciplined. It's setting a schedule for yourself. It's taking action. It's being in that kind of willful energy where maybe there's a part of you that doesn't want to do what you're doing, but you're just making it happen. And you're choosing to direct your focus and energy and attention towards the activities that are going to drive and move your business forward. So that is the warrior. Super useful, but only useful, I think, up until a certain point in your business where it kind of starts to take the back seat to the second archetype here, which is the king or the queen. The king or the queen is the high-level strategic visionary in a business. It's the part of you that's working on your business instead of in your business. If you think about a king or a queen, there's a sense of calm. There's a sense of they see things from a much broader perspective. They're much higher up in terms of their view and their perspective on their business or on their kingdom or queendom or whatever it is that they're overseeing. And so there's this sense of distance that they have from the ground floor doing that allows allows them to step back and look at things more strategically and say, okay, let's look at what we're doing here. And rather than just being caught in the doing all day, we can step back and we say, does this actually even need to be done? Or maybe I can step back and I can ask myself, is there a better way of doing this? Do we need to do 80% of what we're doing right now? The warrior is just going to go at it and make it happen. But the king or the queen is much more strategic. And there's much more of this higher level overview and insight. There's much more of this visionary focus as well, where we're plotting a course down the year, 2 years, 5 years down the line. This is the part of your mindset that's going to allow you to zoom out and make longer term decisions. Generally, the warrior is very short term focused. The warrior is focused on what's right in front of them, on how to crush the day. There's a lot of energy and momentum there. But the king or the queen is focused on the vision. Where are we going? How do we do the right things so that we can set ourselves up to be where we want to be in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years down the line? So again, this is the part of you that's going to work more on your business instead of in your business. I think the king or the queen becomes particularly relevant when you're scaling and growing a business. The move that most entrepreneurs struggle with is moving from the warrior to the king or the queen. And a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in the warrior. But if you can make that mindset shift into more of that high level owner mindset, more of that investor mindset where you're leveraging your capital, you're looking at your resources and allocating and delegating and doing work through other people. This is a big part of the king or the queen as well. You never see a king or queen sweeping the floors, right? What does the king or queen do? The king or queen has a team of people who they've hired or who are under their care to be able to help them do what they need to do. So the king or the queen is not the doer in the business. And ultimately, as you grow and scale a business, you're stepping more and more out of the role of doer in your business and much more into this mindset where you're setting the strategy, you're leveraging resources, your team to be able to do the ground floor work that needs to be done. It's more of this high level ownership CEO mindset. That is the king or the queen. Super useful. You might ask yourself in your business, is this an area right now where I feel like maybe I'm doing a really good job, or do I feel like there's an opportunity for me to develop this part of myself more fully, this archetype? A lot of entrepreneurs, the answer is yes. So this could be as simple as just setting aside some time once a week where you're stepping back from all of the ground floor activities. This is often something I'll recommend to clients, and stepping into more of this like high level strategic mindset where maybe you're doing some journaling and reflecting on your business more as like a set of systems, or you're just taking some time off. And like I did this morning, I was out on a hike this morning and I was just thinking and being with myself. It's much more of this like high level being, visionary type mindset, less of the doing. So that is really important in a business. And if we don't have that in a business, what ends up happening is the warrior is really good at getting things done. But left to its own devices, there's a lot of inefficiency that the warrior will create, because the warrior is just like out there hacking the axe all day. Whereas the king is going to be able to step back, or the queen is going to be able to step back and say, hey, we probably shouldn't even be over there hacking in that corner. We should probably move you over here because you're going to be 10 times more effective if you just do this over here instead. So this is definitely an incredibly important archetype in a business to be able to hold. And if you don't have this in your business, generally what happens is you're going to burn out. So that is the king or the queen. Again, you might ask yourself, do I feel like I have some opportunities there to be able to leverage that and improve that in terms of how I'm showing up in my business? That brings us to number 3, which is the magician. I love this. The magician is the wise sage. You think of like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. Like there's a sense that the magician has this like much broader view. It's even higher up than the king. There's a spiritual aspect to the magician where the magician is connected to his or her intuition, to more divine guidance, to more of a sense of purpose, that higher lens on life. So there's this sense of, rather than, just looking at what's right in front of us and being kind of lost in more of this like worldly perspective, the magician can zoom out and feel more connected to his or her spirit, to God, to the sense of life as this magical experience. And so the magician brings a lot of wisdom and also a deeper form of guidance in a business. I spent the morning connecting with my magician, and it was so incredibly helpful and healing. And what became clear to me through doing that was I was able to zoom out and see everything that was happening in my business more through this lens of like, everything's unfolding exactly as it needs to. And I don't need to be so stressed. I don't have to be so gripping so hard. And I don't have to, worry so much. And I can just kind of let my foot off the gas a little bit and just kind of relax. When you're connected to your magician in a business, you get intuitive guidance. There are things that your magician will tell you to do that may not make sense on paper, but may be the perfect thing for you. The magician is also the realm of your larger purpose. When you're connected to your magician, you feel alive, you feel energized because you are literally connected to the reason why you are here on the planet. And you are able to integrate that into the work that you do, which gives you that energy and that momentum to keep going. The magician is also the realm of sustainability in a business. When I look at what actually creates success in a business, so often it's just the entrepreneur that's able to continue to show up because success takes time and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take years of consistent effort committed to a certain direction. So when you're able to connect to your magician, to that deeper sense of purpose of why you're doing what you're doing in the first place, and get that sense of energy that comes from feeling connected to that and aligning your work with that, you have a level of energy that is sustainable, that will carry you through the inevitable ups and downs and challenges, and will also allow you to look at all of those things through a broader lens. So that rather than getting lost in all of the day-to-day drama of your business, of the clients who are unhappy, of the launches that don't go the way that you want to, rather than getting derailed by all of those things, which so many entrepreneurs do. And I've been there too. Running a business is really hard. And so if you don't have that broader perspective that the magician gives, it's easy to just get super caught in all of the day-to-day drama and to be completely overwhelmed and to feel like you're just on this roller coaster ride all the time in your business, where it's like, my God, I feel like one day I'm happy, one day I'm sad, blah, blah, blah. That's not sustainable as an entrepreneur. So the magician gives perspective, the magician gives wisdom, the magician gives intuitive guidance, and this lightness and playfulness as well. That is kind of the result of, I think, like resting between the two planes of the world. It's like we have one foot in the world and we have one foot in our perspective as these larger spiritual beings. And when you feel connected to yourself as larger than just this 3D material thing, you're able to hold what's happening in your world so much more lightly. So that is what the magician gives. How can you cultivate this in your life? I think this is where spiritual practice comes into play. It's taking some time off, which is so hard for us as entrepreneurs. It's hard to do this. I have a hard time doing this. My mind just wants to kind of like keep working. But when I take time to reconnect with myself, to go out in nature, to spend time being and not just doing all the time, this is where that magician starts to come back online. So can you cultivate more of this in your life and business through spiritual practice, through taking time off, to taking time to recharge or reflect or be with yourself? Journaling is another thing that is incredibly helpful for me, that has allowed me to connect to those deeper layers of my being. This is an incredibly important aspect of business. It's probably one of the most commonly overlooked. A lot of people see the value of the warrior. They're like, okay, great, I'm in my warrior all day. They see the value of the king and the queen, which is more of like this intellectual kind of overseer or strategic kind of mindset. But I think far fewer people see the value of the magician. And I see a lot of people who don't have this or have underdeveloped this in a business burn out after a couple of years because they're just going on the same path. They're doing the same things. They're either in their warrior all day. They're like, man, why do I feel exhausted all the time? Or they're just in their king or queen all day. Maybe they've balanced the king and queen and the warrior. And so they've been able to create a lot of success on paper, but they're disconnected from themselves. They're disconnected from their soul. They're disconnected from the reason why they're doing all of this in the first place. And so that inevitably starts to create this drag in your life and your business. So really important that we cultivate the magician. And this is the thing that's going to look like on paper, like, I don't have time for that. Let me just like keep working harder. For most entrepreneurs, I find we have to unwire that belief that constantly working is the way that we're going to create the fastest success, and realize that cultivating some of these qualities and these archetypes that are a little bit deeper and under the surface is actually the way in the long run to get a lot more of what we want. And that brings us to number 4, which is the lover. The lover is the heart center of an entrepreneur. It's the part of you that sees your clients as human beings, as people with desires and dreams and goals and pain and challenges, and who honors their humanity and sees the deepest part of them in everything that you do. The king or the queen might look at your business more from a strategic perspective. You might see from that lens, you might see leads, and you might see customer lifetime value, and you might see your business more as this set of operational strategic systems, whereas the lover sees the humanity underneath that all. The lover sees the human connection. The lover knows that he or she is here to serve and to take care of others. And the lover is really where your magnetism is in your business. The thing that really, I talk about this so often in marketing, the thing that makes people want to do business with you, first and foremost, is that feeling of, I feel seen by you. I feel heard. I feel understood. I feel like you really get me. And then on a deeper level, it's also feeling that sense of care. That sense of, you don't just see me as another transaction, as another client in your Facebook group. You are actually personally invested in me. That's the thing that gets people to want to buy in the first place, and also gets them to want to buy again and again and again and stick around. We want to do business with people who feel like that to us. And so I think this is really important in a business. It's probably one of the biggest things that people overlook. And it's very easy to lose sight of this, especially as you scale and grow. You start to see your business more from this higher level perspective, which is good. As the king or the queen, I think that's actually very valuable and helpful, to start to zoom out and see things from that larger lens. But if you lose sight of that ground floor connectedness with the people that you're here to serve, if you stop seeing those clients in your business as human beings, if you start seeing them as just replaceable cogs in a system where you're just running people through, that is where your business will just start to atrophy and die. It's the love, it's the care, it's the compassion, the heart of who you are that is the source of your magnetism and real attraction in a business. The entrepreneurs who are able to balance this in a business, balance is the key, are incredibly successful. On the other hand, I see entrepreneurs, and I've also been in this camp before, where we're so caught in the lover, we're so immersed in every single thing that's going on with every single client. We're so enmeshed, is maybe a better word, in that ground floor relational aspect of our business that we get overwhelmed. It's like we can't see the forest from the trees because we're so focused on the trees. Particularly a lot of entrepreneurs in there that I work with who have, big hearts. They really want to help people. Oftentimes, this is the place that they get stuck. Their lover is so overdeveloped, and they haven't yet developed these other aspects of these archetypes in their business. So they're spending all their time here, and they get stuck. They're not able to scale and grow. So they need to develop more of their king or queen energy to be able to step out of that ground floor more and to see their business more from this higher lens and perspective, and not be caught in those relational aspects all of the time. So these 4 archetypes are incredibly useful. I hope as you hear these, you're like, I mean, as I'm going through this with you, I'm like so excited because I'm like, this is the roadmap. Like these 4 hats, you can almost think of them in a business. These are things that you can shift between. And so the first question I have for you is, which of these are you already doing really well? Almost everyone that I've mentored and worked with has one or more of these archetypes that they're just like really good at. Maybe you're the warrior, like I get stuff done. I am disciplined. I go out there, I make stuff happen. And that's awesome. If you've got that part of you, great. Maybe you're really good at the king or the queen. You're really great at high level strategy. You're able to zoom out and see your business as a set of systems and individual parts. That's awesome. That's really great. Or maybe it's some of these other pieces. So what are you really good at? And on the flip side, which of these 4 archetypes do you need to develop more fully? Which of these 4 are underdeveloped in the way that you lead your business? There are practical things that we can do to integrate these into a business. Practical things. If you're talking about the warrior, it's like maybe you got to get better at discipline. Maybe you got better at setting a schedule, sticking to a routine. Start your day with cold showers in the morning. To really start to condition yourself. That's like mind over matter. It's like I decide what happens and I exercise my will to make it happen. That's really cool. That's something that we can cultivate. If it's the king or the queen, maybe you need to set aside some time in your schedule to step out of the doing in your business and look at your business more from a high level CEO mindset. The magician, maybe you're working too hard. You need to step back. You need to spend some time cultivating a relationship with yourself, your spirituality. Maybe you need to take some time off on a vacation or something like that. Just be with yourself. Maybe you need to start journaling every morning. Or the lover. I love, there's a practice called, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but this is like a Buddhist practice where you can close your eyes and you just put your hand on your heart and you take a couple minutes and you just imagine your clients and you send love to them. You imagine your clients as if they were real human beings because they are and send love to them and wish them well every morning or before you get on a webinar or before you do a training. Spend a couple minutes and just imagine the people that you're actually going to be sharing with and communicating with. That's a practice that can help strengthen your lover. So these are practices that we can leverage to be able to do this. The key in a business, I think, is you got to have a balance of all these things. It's not that any one of them are bad. It's when we're over leveraged in one area. And so it's the integration of all of these archetypes in a business that ultimately is going to allow you to create the most success. So I hope you found this video helpful today. I just love this. I think it's so useful and valuable in a business. And I will see you in the next video.